is being live streamed. Okay, we are live, Colin. I'm just going to quieten this. Change this. I'm always like too many
buttons.
Things. Okay, but we are on, and because of my great ability of being technically incompetent, I never know how to advertise. Because whenever I put we will come, me and Colin, we will be chatting. I can never find how to get onto that advertised icon to actually live stream there. So I decided I'm just not going to put it on YouTube and say, hey, we will be talking here. So I just advertised on Instagram like you. So hopefully people will join us. We also have a delay. So just so you know, I don't know if you can see the chat or not. I just have it on my phone. So just in case, anybody will have any questions or when everybody joins us. I know it's also crazy times for America, so I'm sorry, maybe next time we can catch up a bit later so people can actually wake up.
It's not only always a weird clock time in America, but America's always in a weird time anyway, so
yeah, we all in a weird time.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm just going to introduce you, okay? And hello, everybody. Probably most of you will rewatch it, but whoever will come on and join us live, welcome. I'm Kasia from Tarot Map, and this is Colin Campbell, and he's the creator of a very unique, interesting, beautiful deck called the Oceandry Tarot. And welcome, Colin. Nice to have you.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
I know. I'm so excited for a change. I have at least like a male body sitting in front of me.
Yes.
What are your pronouns, Colin? Let us know.
He, him.
He, him. Great. Okay.
Yes.
So, Colin, today we are going to be chatting about your deck. You have sent this deck to me in 2019, I think, right? That's what it was. We established this. And this was a long time ago, before the world changed through COVID. And yeah, we're in a different world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, do not do a review yet, because I'm planning on a Kickstarter. And so I never actually even managed to show this deck properly on YouTube, which is going to happen after our interview. But maybe to Kickstarter us into the story of this tarot, why didn't you do the Kickstarter? How long did it take you to even finish the deck? And what were the origins of you wanting to create this deck?
Yeah, the Kickstarter I was planning to do for a long time, and I had a couple of kind of false starts with it where I was like, I'm going to do it. I've always wanted to do a Kickstarter, and then I sort of bail on it. And I think it comes down to just anxiety around selling art and kind of making a business of something you're really passionate about. I've been really nervous to blur those lines before, just because it's like my favorite outlet to relax and to, kind of express myself. And I'm not a business-minded person. So I got the courage up, when I sent you the deck to finally do the Kickstarter, and I was going for it. And that was, global pandemic time as well. So not only was it that personal pressure of the business side of things, but also just sort of life pressure and being stuck inside, that I decided what, it's not worth the stress for me to try and kickstart something if it's going to make me feel horrible or, give me all this anxiety. So I decided to do the self-publishing route just through GameCrafter, because it took care of all the logistics. I didn't get to make as good of quality as a deck as I wanted. And, there was lots of other factors, but I thought being able to share it with people who wanted it and keeping myself sane were the most important things.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned two really important things for me as well, from my own experiences of offering creative things into the world, having an idea, making it happen and putting it out there. That often that business side of things, I was telling you about my hula hooping when I used to teach hula hoops, hoop dance. I used to love dancing with hula hoop, and I'm also not considering myself a great business-minded person. And for some reason, whenever I started making it a business, it just totally ate my passion for dancing. And I stopped hula hooping altogether. I reached for it, but it's never became like back to how it was when I wasn't in business of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just like you all of a sudden have to think about the customer and the product that you're making. It's like all these other factors. And instead of dedicating all your time to the thing you like, it's dedicating your time to make sure the thing you like gets in people's hands in the correct way.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to say hello to people, but I don't know how to live chat. Oh, there are people here. Hi. Sorry, guys. I just noticed. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I just figured out how to see the chat right now. Hi, Lily, and Laura is here. And Laura had your deck as well from Aquamarine 18.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely to see you guys. Hi, coffee in, of course. I have a tea, but it's 4 p.m. in my world, and you guys early morning. So I'm glad somebody is awake to join us live.
Yes.
We are going to screen share some of the Colin's art, and we're going to go a bit deeper into the system that Colin used in this deck. So stick around or rewatch it later, because I think it's going to be fascinating and I'm excited about it. I just pulled this one card, Colin Chariot, because it's Chariot Rare, right? Number 7. I love this. Just the combo of red and purple gets me every fucking time. I just love it.
Thanks.
And it's such a awesome, I don't know, like just the perspective, and beautiful card. I really love it. So just to spark your interest, guys. Yeah, Laura said that she has your deck and she loves it. Me too. So Colin, Kickstarter aside, it didn't happen, but the deck is available. People can get it. It's now, we can say, on Game Crafters, so it's kind of like available to everybody really worldwide. You said it's exactly the same as the version that we have. So the paper is like, I would say it's really cool. Like it's kind of like not too thick, not too thin, but it's actually really great to shuffle as well. And it's regular tarot size. It's not on linen paper, but it's you can see it's kind of like has a little sheen, but it's not really like too much isolation there. It's not too shiny. It doesn't have frames. It's really beautiful, easy to operate and easy to use, and available on Game Crafters. So if you guys are interested, you can check it out, or the links will be in the description box. But it's a different deck. So I was laughing to Colin. I'm like, why did you do it to us, tarot people? We comfortable. We in our comfort zones. We use Rider-Waite-Smith or Toff or F. Marseille maybe. And you come here and you fuck up the tarot system. What's wrong with you? So as you can see, for example, the Chariot here, the number for Chariot is 6 and not 7 as we know it. And to give you just another example, just to Star, for example, is 20 and not 17. So yes, explain yourself, Colin, please. What's the system? Why did you change it? And like what prompts you to actually think for yourself?
Yeah, it was the one that always gets me is the Fool. The Fool is number 4. And as I was making this, it like broke my brain that the Fool wasn't 0. And it's funny. I'm very comfortable with the renumbered majors now, but when I first started, I was so nervous to like share that with people. I thought people were legitimately going to be mad at me. If you look back on my early Instagram, I would show off the majors, but I'd never show the number of them. Like I always cover it up with another card or something. But it was a whole process. Like it took 6 years to make the deck, and that was doing research in general on tarot at the time, and then I started looking into the Tree of Life, which I'll show some examples of later, which is kind of how the tarot deck, at least through an RWS lens or a Thoth lens, is laid out. And there were little things that didn't quite make sense to me. And, over time you learn that like it's beautiful the way that it's set up now, but I have a real love of symmetry and things. So I was trying to pull it apart and make things a little more making sense in my brain, which ended up just like renumbering the whole deck. Do you mind if I jump into some visual aids now?
Yes, please jump in.
Great.
And this is like really, I love people like this. I'm like, I love traditional decks, but oh man, just challenge me anytime. Like that's why I'm really excited. And I think with visuals, we're going to get, I'm just going to ask a question here when Colin shares the screen. I know we have a little delay. Can you guys see it? Hi, Julie. Julie Kushiawas is here. She's work lurking. Naughty Julie.
I love it.
Can you see the screen? Please let us know. And do you want to just maybe put an image up?
Yes.
So people can... I can see it, so I'm I can't see it on YouTube yet. Wait. Oh yeah, I can see it. Okay, cool. Great. I think we're seeing it. If anybody cannot see it, yeah. Okay, we can. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, tell us what prompts you to change the numbering of the majors, because the minors stayed the same, right? You went from ace to 10. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, there's some other things I did with the minors, but the majors were what I was most interested in. Yeah. And I think the grounding factor for all this was I love storytelling in tarot. The idea of like the fool's journey, I've always found really fascinating, going from our initial fool and kind of following the path. And this right here is the tree of life, which I think a lot of us are familiar with. It's a like a Christian Kabbalistic symbol. I think a lot of cultures have used it, but that's the one I know it from. And the way this is broken down, every major arcana card falls on one of these paths. So there's 22 paths that connect all these circles here. And the more I started digging into it, the more I realized that things didn't feel as clean as I hoped they would when the cards started falling on the tree. So for example, in the Hebrew alphabet, there are 3 mother letters, there's 7 double letters, and 12 single letters. And those relate to the majors. So the 3 mother letters, for example, those are your like fire, your air, your water. In my head, I'm like, okay, there's 3 horizontal lines on the tree of life. It must be that those mother letters fall on those. But no, they're the red lines here. So they fall kind of along the side. And that does some cool things. It kind of caps the tree of life in an interesting way, but it sort of tweaked my brain a little bit. And same thing with like the double letters, there's, the perfect amount of these, the perfect amount of vertical lines to host 7 double letters, but they're the green ones. They're spread, kind of all over the place here. And same with the blue. So that was like thing number 1 that kind of tweaked my brain a little bit, was these mother letters that had specific spots seemingly on the tree of life were sort of spread to the wind and, placed all over the place.
I never thought about it this way.
It's interesting. And, when you think about like the...
Pretty.
Yeah, I love it. And that's exactly what I thought too, is like, this looks so much more satisfying to my eye to have the mother letters spread out in their, correct place. I want to preface this with, I don't think anything is incorrect about the normal tarot thing. Like, this is just in my Aries brain that I needed things to be very like kind of pristine.
Yeah.
So that was a change there.
So if you were to, can you just like do the majors for these?
Like run down quickly? Which majors are which?
Yeah. Do you have it? Do you have an image with this?
Yeah, I sure do. I got this.
Just curious how that, so that would be Empress, and then 11 we say like, is it strength or is it justice?
Strength.
Strength, okay. And 19 Sun. So yes. Empress, strength, and Sun.
Mm-hmm.
Empress and... So okay, I jumped ahead because now I'm curious. I'm like, fuck, does it fit? How does it fit? What does it do? What story does it say? So
yes.
Empress, strength, and Sun. Okay, so when you did the color thing and you put obviously the majors on top, like how did you make sense of it then? Like what was your story then? Like how did you make like, oh, it fits Empress, strength, and like, so tell us more.
Yeah, that was a very weird kind of mind-blowing thing for me because once you start moving the majors on the tree of life, you could do a million different things with that. Like I had to make choices about, do I keep the cards associated with their letters that are, normally in a tarot system, or do I change things up that way? So I decided to use this as a way to reorder the numbering of the major arcana, but leave a lot of the associations the same. So, for example, Aries is still the emperor. I'm not, going in and changing that to be Libra or something. So those are all kind of the same. But it did give me this very different order. And thankfully, it reordered all the cards. It would have driven me crazy if just like two cards were the same, but everything else was different.
Yeah, everything fits, but these two lines like doesn't. Yeah. That's so fascinating. Okay.
And then I was thinking about like, okay, what are the ramifications of this new story? It started with the sun and ended with the moon, and then there was all of this, change in the middle. And I was going through this process, and I was having these personal kind of like revelations about tarot, just seeing it from a different angle, and the cards kind of unfolding in an interesting way. And I was like, okay, that's the story that I'm going to ground this in, is kind of a revelation or just a process of how people learn. So the
because
whole
we can
story.
also mention, I'm sorry to jump in, that
No,
like
no.
when you buy the deck, you will receive a PDF, right? It's in the PDF form, like the
Yes.
guidebook. And it's a really interesting guidebook. And I was like, honestly, I read it when you sent it, but it was in 2019. And I didn't reread it before our interview. But I remember that I was thinking when I read it back then that like, oh, wow, that's like interesting. It's so different. But yeah, it happened to a couple of years have passed, but
Oh yeah, that's fine. I actually
sorry.
did some rewatching of my own videos to remind myself of a couple of the details too.
Yeah.
Not only is there the PDF guidebook if you download the deck, and that's free for anybody, so you're welcome to go grab it, even if you don't pick up a copy. On my YouTube channel, I also have a whole video guidebook as well, going over this stuff, all the color things, the story of the majors. So anything you want to see is there too.
Is this on your YouTube channel, or do you mean Instagram? YouTube channel, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll
I
link
have a
it
whole
below.
playlist, the Oceandry guidebook.
Perfect. Okay, please continue.
Oh, of course. So I took this idea of learning and made that the whole basis of the story. So I'll pull up a couple of card images here just while I'm chatting. Let's see.
And we are going to also speak about color later, because this deck is so beautiful when it comes to color. And I think that love or symmetry, like, yeah, it speaks through the how you arrange the cards, elements, but also the color which you used. It's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is the bonus card in the deck, the Oceandry card. And this tells the story of the whole deck. So like spoilers, not that there's spoilers in a tarot deck, but the story starts in the desert with the sun, and you're kind of like looking up at the sun and not remembering where you're at. And as the story goes on, you realize that you're not in the desert, you're actually under the ocean. So this is the sandy ocean floor. And then you end up with the moon at the end. And that whole thing is a metaphor for your lower self. So we're like living in the world. The sun is our lower self. It's what we're experiencing. It's our, ourselves. And then the moon is your higher self, kind of like leading you through this learning journey, trying to get you to realize things as you go. And finally, at the end of the story, kind of prompts you to begin the whole thing again. So that was the sub like new fool's journey, if you will, going through the whole deck.
Yeah, interesting, because in astrology, moon is connected to like your DNA and to your memory and like a biological karma. So you kind of nearly would go opposite, and sun is but I actually started to challenge this recently as well, because obviously sun is so hero journey based shit. And I feel like moon obviously got a little bit of this, got discharged a little bit on this unconscious level, when maybe it's not unconscious, maybe it's intuitive, maybe it's instinctual, but not necessarily always, all in the dark. And the gorgeous sun is just here to illuminate your way. So it's fascinating that you kind of put it opposite.
Yeah, and that was partially the ordering, like the sun was first and the moon was last. So I had to, justify why those things were at the poles. And yeah, I don't think the moon gets enough love either. That's my favorite tarot card anyway. And it was before even Oceandry. So I wanted to give it a little extra spotlight too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just answering questions. So you go, Colin, just.
Oh, no worries at all. I'll show off a couple other cards as we talk here. This is the Priestess. There is this whole narrative of a conch shell that you find in the deck. And at the very beginning in the sun, you wake up because you hear something breaking, and it's this conch shell falling and shattering, and that sound wakes you up. And then you find the shell along your journey. It ends up being kind of like your only companion in this desert. And by the end of the story, you're the moon, you've risen above the water, and you have this shell, and you drop it next to your lower self, your higher self does, to kind of like shatter the illusion of the lower self and wake you up, and those kind of themes that run through. So I wanted to make sure the shell was depicted in at least a couple of cards.
So beautiful. I love also the shell is, I think, in the world card as well, isn't it?
Yes.
So gorgeous too. Yeah.
And there's like a mirroring that happens if you fold the major arcana in half. The world and the priestess appear at the same time, but the priestess has light coming out of the shell and the world has light shining down onto the shell. So this idea of kind of that like inner light coming out, or like inner knowledge versus the actuality of what's happening shining down onto the shell.
I'm so looking for those two now. Just give me
totally.
Give me 1 sec.
Of course.
This is fascinating. Oh, I'm so glad I got you on. Where is the world? Come on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let me just see. I noticed that on YouTube is only one of us visible, so people can only see the speaker. So you say light coming from outside in the world and from within out in the priestess. Okay. Oh, it's just beautiful. Okay. What else do we have?
Let's do the Tower. This is my favorite major in the deck because this is the big reveal moment in the story. If you look at the Death card, I know I have that somewhere here. The Death card is this moment where you see this ship in the desert, and it's completely out of place, and it really kind of like hurts your head and, does strange things to you. But then in the Tower, we're seeing that ship underwater. So this is the first moment where you realize that it's not the desert floor that you're on, but the bottom of the ocean. So the seaweed crawling up and the water and things surrounding the mast of this ship. This was one of the first majors I drew as well. So it really kind of solidified like, okay, we're doing something different here, and we're focusing on the story first instead of the traditional normal meanings.
But that's also fascinating that it came out with Tower, because the Tower is one of those cards that kind of, cracks you open and kind of maybe lets you to step outside of the usual or what you think you can do or how things should be. And suddenly like, you're kind of like breaking through that. So that's interesting that the Tower came like that. Yeah.
And that was important to me too, I knew I was making something really different. So giving folks a little bit of a foothold to read, because if you pick up Oceandry Tarot and you don't know anything about it, it's really different. So you have to know at least a little bit of the behind the scenes, but being able to read the Tower as the Tower was pretty important to me. And then if you want to layer on this kind of like learning journey or this like, understanding, you sure can too.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We are going to actually be talking about it later a little bit about like how we can use practically also this deck in like regular day-to-day readings, or what were your thoughts of how to use it? Is it more for storytelling and so on? So we get there, but first tell us more about the structure of it and the story, because it's fascinating.
I'll show off a couple other majors just to highlight some story beats. Here's the Magician. You'll see on every 7th card in the deck, and that includes the first and the last card, there's this circle in the center. And that is a moment where your higher self is speaking to your lower self. and it's in the exact same position as the sun and the moon on the cards. So we start with the sun in the center. Our first encounter with it is the magician here. And this is your higher self trying to tell you the reality of the situation. But, you have, like, you've kind of stabilized in the desert. You found like resources here. You found things that you need to survive. So you're not paying attention to it and you're moving past. You can see the same circle on the death card here. And this is your higher self finally being able to like break through and tell you like, okay, this is something really out of place and really strange and what's happening. So there's a couple other little narrative beats woven through as well.
So do you remember where is death on the tree of life in your kind of symmetrical system?
Yes. Let's see.
Sorry, I'm just jumping, but now I'm curious. I'm like, where did it end
up? Death is right over here where like kind of hanged man territory normally.
So these were that was the double letters, or that was what was the pathways?
Double letters,
or the double letters.
So it's interesting because the double letters are the vertical lines, but I didn't assign a double letter to death. Like I didn't end up changing the associations that way. I just use it as a basis to kind of reorganize things and then see where the cards fell.
Yeah. Reorganize them for symmetrical reason, like beauty reasons, and see how they evolve. But that's really cool. Okay.
You might notice too, like the numbers are a real mess on this, like 16 being below 21, for example.
Yeah, like it's not like coherent from smallest to largest or vice versa. Yeah.
If you take all the middle path, these guys here, and kind of put them up one position, you get this, which I read this in Robert Wang's book, The Kabbalistic Tarot. It's kind of like the tree of life pre-fall, if you think of it in a Christian context, like the fall of man. So this is like life in its kind of perfect organization, and then things fall, which is where we get Earth down here in Malkuth, and it shifts everything down. So I ordered things on that previous version where it's very symmetrical, and then just let them fall wherever the craziness goes in reality.
Wow. I love, actually, I haven't read the whole book, but because I have it in PDF, it's like hurting my eyes. I think I have to buy like the paper version, but I really love Robert Wang's Kabbalistic Tarot. At least I read maybe like few first chapters, and it's such like, you read it like it's so well written. It's not boring. It's not dry. It's actually really written in this way that you like pulls you in. You want to know more. You're like fascinating how he put it out there. And it's so complex, all the things he puts out with like, it's really great.
Yeah, he does such a beautiful job.
Yeah. So maybe it's Robert Wang. I just write it for people just in case. Robert Wang.
Somewhere.
The Kabbalistic Tarot. And I think it's spelled with K, right? Kabbalistic. Q. Sorry?
It's with a Q.
Oh, with Q. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I didn't misspell it, but if I did, you guys just Google it and you will find it. I think he just wrote this one book on Kabbalistic Tarot. So, okay. So death is here. Okay.
So that's a lot of the behind the scenes structure of the deck itself, kind of the tree of life and things like that. And do you mind if I jump over to the color organization?
Oh yeah, I would love that, please.
So the colors, the whole deck is based off of these 10 colors. And I wanted to use them all evenly. Like even was kind of the name of the game. So I wanted to make sure that, gray appeared the same number of times as emerald and as lime, and kind of figure out a way to systematize that to make sure that the distributions were even. And if you look on the back of the Oceandry Tarot, like the back of the cards, this symbol is actually the key to how the color distributions work. I'll bring up one here so folks at home can see too. So it's this kind of like gemstone almost, with different lines. And like there are
diamond. Yeah, like a cut. Yeah.
My dad was a jeweler, so I've always been really fascinated in gem cutting and stuff like that. So definitely a little influence there.
So from the top, it looks nearly like it could be a pyramid, like the middle, like if you like lifted it up.
Absolutely, yeah. Some kind of cool like origami folded pyramid.
Yeah, origami too, sure.
There are 40 little segments if you count up all these little intermediate bits. So there's one space for every minor arcana card, which is not really relevant. I just think it's kind of neat that it ended up that way. But if you place the colors along the edges, for example, the wands here, we have purple, yellow, orange, red, and gray. And those colors appear in the wands, and those are the only colors that appear in the wands. But you can follow the lines of this shape and see that gray and red are shared with the discs, and purple and yellow are shared with the swords. So every suit shares two colors with two other suits, and then one color with its opposite suit. So wands and cups only share orange, excuse me.
You really thought about it, right? Fuck.
I sure tried to.
6 years out of your life, but that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So then looking at the whole thing, you can see each suit is made up of 5 colors, and they all do that sharing thing with the other suit where, cups and the swords are going to have blues and commons. The discs and the cups are going to have the greens and commons. And then within each suit, every card is 3 of the 5 colors. So there's exactly 10 combinations of 3 within a set of 5. So ace through 10, you'll see, you pick any 3 colors and that'll be one of the cards in the wand suit, for example. So I made sure that it was evenly distributed, not only amongst the suits, but also within a suit itself. Every color appears a certain amount of times and every combination appears too.
Wow. So like when you actually see the color on the cards, did you assign any meanings to the colors, like for yourself? Like, do they mean, like what's purple versus gray, or like, can you give us a little insight into this one?
Absolutely.
Because I think it would help people also, if they have the deck, it would help people to maybe intuitively like connect with the image, not even through just what it represents, but just let themselves be influenced by the color. And I know everybody has their own associations, which I think it's cool and probably valid to use your own stuff, but I'm curious about yours.
Definitely. I think that's a huge way that I approach this. It was getting so heady and intellectual that I like the idea of some kind of like interpretive or intuitive space in there too. With the discs, I sort of assigned like keywords almost to every color. So green was like old, rich, established growth. And lime was new, budding, explosive growth. And gray was this like old, ancient, kind of like stone foundation. So the ace of coins, for example, let me see if I have that one pulled up.
Is this like in the guidebook about the colors, the keywords?
It is, yes. It's a little bit in the guidebook. It goes over kind of the capstones of it. I have a video about each suit, though, that really breaks down what each color means and then talks about each card, too.
Because I was just about to make notes. I love that.
Yes, absolutely.
Old, ancient.
Yep. So ace of coins here, we have, the old ancient ways, like all this gray in the background. And we can see that it's kind of gridded out, almost like a blueprint. But then out of that, we have this explosive green that's taking these shapes, but really making them different and kind of like bending and breaking them. And we see things starting to establish in the darker green, but it's still smeary. It's still, not fully firmly established yet. So trying to take those colors and incorporate them in a subtle way, so you're not super locked into something, but it gives you a little more to go on than just one coin on the page.
Yeah, cool. I like it.
Mm-hmm. The court cards are a little bit different. I actually should say, on every card, you can see the 3 colors that I used at the top. So it's always just below the little suit symbol. Court cards are all 5 colors. So each court card is the full suit's worth of colors in the center.
And you stuck with the like the prince, like is it like from Toph or?
I did.
What did you, because I can't remember now, what are the page, knight and queen and king? How did you name them?
Princess, prince, queen, king.
Okay, so you like mixed.
Yes, a little blend. I would say meaning wise, I'm mostly influenced by Thoth. That was the deck that I grew up on. But I was like, okay, I'm going to try and again, even it out a little bit. So there's a balance there.
Okay, cool. So prince would be the knight.
Yes, correct. So we have influence of like air in the earth suit here with the prince. So we have like, kind of blowing windy shapes in the background. But this pink suit symbol in the center, pink is the color that is shared between earth and air, or discs and swords. So that's another overlap of color, because you can see, this is the color that's shared between those two suits, as opposed to, say, the queen. This emerald green is the color that's shared between cups and coins. So there's always another link between the suit overlaps within the core cards as well.
And here you were influenced by Toph's kind of associations that like queens are water and okay.
Definitely. Yeah, at the time I was learning tarot at the beginning of this in the first couple of years. So I didn't even realize that there were other options. So I was like, oh, of course, queen is, the watery part of earth. And so that really sunk its way in.
Yeah.
And then majors, I used explicitly non-suit combinations of colors. So there was 98 other 3-color combinations that I hadn't used. So I went through and picked different color combinations to use. And I picked each color 6 times. So in the major arcana, the cyan color appears 6 times, orange appears 6 times, and yellow appears 6 times in different combos and different cards.
Was it hard to connect, or did it just flow quite intuitively? You didn't have oh shit, this doesn't feel like I have 1 yellow left and it doesn't fit the card that I have left, or how did it work?
I spent an embarrassingly long time trying to get all this together. Even with the grid showing off all the color combinations, it took so long to figure out okay, if I change this to yellow, it has ramifications in these suits because now all the color combos look different. And there was some combos like lovers. Instantly, I knew I wanted lovers to be the desert. So I'm cyan, orange, yellow. I had this card image in mind. That was locked in day one. You had mentioned the chariot earlier, though. I can't stand this color combination of green, purple, and red. It actually made me really happy to hear that you liked it. And
I love it. I could dress like this. I'm thinking of making my nails next time. They're going to be purple and red, something for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I love that. And that just speaks to everyone's got different things that they like and different combos that work. So I think they all ended up looking really good. But there was some that I really fought with. Strength was another one.
Well, because this one is not so obvious, with the red or purple. It's not probably if you love symmetry and you kind of it's not the colors that you really would, put together.
Mm-hmm.
They a little bit on edge with one another. You have to be open to it.
Yes, very much. Another one too of gray, this gray and this green, you can't really see them against each other. And then the orange was strange, but you just fuss with it until you get something that looks good, and then you go from there.
So if we see strength here, how did you the archetype of strength tarot, would you use the traditional one in this image? And if so, what was your thought process going on here?
I sure did.
To grow in I'm just thinking now, is it weed or seaweed? Tell me, I don't know.
No worries. So you have to kind of know a little bit of the Oceandry story for it to make sense. I think looking at this, it doesn't really read traditional strength. But in this point in the story, you're in the desert and you're dying because you don't have enough water or resources. But you find this cave and it's full of abundant growth. And you stay here and you start to eat and you settle in. But you realize that you can't just stay here forever. If you're going to escape the desert, if you're going to find your thing, you have to be able to go back out. So this is that inner strength to leave what's comfortable, to leave a place that is sustaining you, but isn't getting you to your final goal.
Wow, that's cool. Here, somebody, Silverius, right? I've always seen the cave mouth as the mouth of the lion. Oh, that's interesting too, as the connection
Very
to
much.
Yeah. Okay, give us another one.
All right.
You
Here
love
we
the
have
cave.
the star. And this is another visual echo. The star is the very end of the deck, and it's echoing the emperor, which is at the beginning. Here we have this circle on the bottom and this line that's reaching up. And on the emperor, we have the sun, which is the circle at the top, and a line that's reaching down. But the star represents this moment where you're bursting through the surface of the water. So we're below this great cosmic ocean. And this is that like ascending to kind of like your higher self. That idea of the star guiding you or leading you or giving you hope. You're like finally getting there. You're literally going up to where a star would be, like physically in this, cosmology. And the just kind of the overwhelmingness of the water and the breaking and those kind of things.
So would
I
you
feel so
say
rambly today.
for you to get out of the ocean, that's like this initial, like the spark of inspiration, like, when you think of the star, I always think of it like this guiding light, but also like having the inspiration to actually, like pour out those like talents of yours, whatever you feel it's important, out into the world in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So here you are coming out of the ocean into the desert, right? Or not even into the desert, because the desert was under the ocean. Like, where are you coming out?
Yeah, you're kind of coming out of like the old way of thinking, and this is like fully immersing yourself in whatever's new. I actually had this thought when I was making it too, of like, okay, we were in the desert before. Now we're above the ocean. What if there's another desert in this? I'm like, I'm not going there. Like that's taking the metaphor too much for my brain.
Yeah, because it's a little bit like this kaleidoscopic reality could be, like, out of the, like a constant, another one, and another one. Sure.
Oh,
Let's not go.
Yep. That's the problem with learning anything, is there's always more stuff to learn. It just fractals out.
Yeah, totally. So then you had what was the next one, which was coming in? The Emperor. That's the Emperor. Is it like Stonehenge inspired, or what's the stone formation? Stonehenge?
Very much. Like this is explicitly Stonehenge, but this isn't supposed to represent like Stonehenge on Earth necessarily.
Sure.
But this is like ruins, like you awaken in this ruined city with all these stone monoliths, and the idea that like you're the only person here, you immediately become the authority figure in this abandoned city. And it's kind of that sun asserting its dominance over this very physical kind of stone place.
Yeah, the physicality feels physical, this card. It's very cool.
Thanks. Just to show you, I've been showing things very out of order just for example's sake. But after the Emperor comes the Hierophant in the story. And this is like zooming in on one of those stone pillars. And these white lines are kind of revealing the truth behind the scenes. So on the outside, you have the sky with the clouds, but we're kind of like X-raying in on this stone. And you can see that there's moss and there's seaweed growing off of it. So you can see that it's underwater. And this is hinting at the Oceandry card, showing that the whole narrative has been there the whole time, but you just can't understand it at that time.
I love it. And I have a personal I love that you have the Hierophant as the like dolmen stone, because I think that stones and crystals and rocks, minerals, they were always my first and favorite teachers for a very long time when I was kind of opening up. And to see it as a Hierophant, and I love Hierophant card. I know it's not the favorite cards of many people, but like I love it. And to have it as a dolmen and have this sun and moon also juxtaposition, that I love it.
That's so cool. I think, like the earth as a teacher is a really neat concept. I actually hadn't thought of it too much that way. Thank you for adding that little layer as well.
And specifically with rocks, I think also, because they're so ancient, and like when you can think of like what has been witnessed, or how much even like mineral wise, is there a stardust in them, and all these minerals that are also outside in like the cosmos, or it's fascinating to think like this. Yeah.
Cool. I'm happy to show off more cards if you like. We can switch to another topic, whatever you think's best.
Maybe I would like to actually, because I'm having now, like, whenever you get this, maybe you can stop screen sharing for a sec. Whenever you get this new system type of things, right? And I always think like if people don't want to read the Oceandry story, and I don't give a fuck about your reasoning behind it, why the numbers are different, and they just love the artwork, let's say, and they want to use it via color and just intuition and what they know about tarot. So when they see chariot, they're just going to use it as a chariot and maybe respond to, the imagery through color and through the elements. Is there any tips, like how would you use it in regular life? Let's say we can split this question in two. So one would be for people who love to read your story and use it. Maybe we can start with this, that we know a little bit of the background of the story. And how do you use it? Would you use it then like how would you use it in a daily life, like, because the story sounds very kind of like a metaphor, very dreamlike. And we know that a lot of us, it's just like cut of the day. Fuck, your favorite one, chariot. What does?
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to work. I don't have time for a metaphor.
Yeah, no time for metaphor, man. Like, what do I do with this deck now? So would you go first, like, what would be the tip? Like, go via color, go via regular tarot association if you don't want to know, or if you know the story, like, would you just play, like, how would you include, for example, that tree of life even into that, like the paths? Like, would you do it for yourself somehow, or you just used it as a template for your story, but not really so much to interpret the cards?
Yeah, for me, like, I really like being very in the moment reading tarot. So even when I read Oceandry, I incorporate the story because I know it, but I don't think of the tree of life bits. I don't think of all the esoteric behind the scenes stuff. I really try and focus on the learning journey. So what does it mean to learn something new? How does, the Hierophant relate to uncovering something or seeing a mysterious symbol? That kind of very tangible hands-on stuff. I just think that reads better.
So you wouldn't go like chariot is this. You would, like, if you pull the chariot, let's say for today, this would mean, because that's basically how I like to see tarot as well. Like, you would go, where can I kind of see chariot today? Like, how can I incorporate more of this energy of my favorite two colors today? Like, where can I find purple and red together and wear it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a totally valid way to do it. If you want help getting started with that, there's a little blurb on like the learning journey in the guidebook for each card. So you could read that if you wanted some inspiration. But like Chariot and Oceandry is very time-based. Those three pillars, you can see the past one in the purple and the future in the red are very pristine. But in the present, that pillar is very damaged because we live in, reality where life is kind of battering us all the time. So how can you appreciate moving through life, taking the blows as they come, and, maybe wearing purple and red as you do it along the way? So I try not to go too terribly deep with it and just keep it relevant and top of mind. So
let's maybe speak about like how you can people read this deck? Did you see people using this deck only based on color and element, let's say? They see, I like purple and I like red, and I can see, they like create this little vase, and there is pink coming into it. So like, can you like do it like this? Just go kind of, I see what I see and it's this color and I like this color, or I don't like fucking green, so it's not a good card for me.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. The minor arcana especially, I tried to make them interlock with colors so it would be a little more readable if you read with color, because I certainly do. Anytime I pull cards with any deck, I'm like, ooh, there's yellow in this card and there's yellow in this card. How do they relate together? So these two cards, how does that basin of blue in the Two of Swords that's kind of ejecting up, but then gets frozen in place in the Eight of Cups, how can you read that as, making a thrashing, difficult choice and then finally settling on something in the Eight and moving away from your other choice? So I think you can absolutely bring all your tarot knowledge specifically to the minor arcana and just use those colors as like a little bit of a lock of like, okay, there's something in the Six of Cups that's relating to the Two of Swords because they share a color.
Fascinating. So it's a good tip also, I think, for people to, like, maybe some people don't know it, to actually, if you want to connect the cards, to see if there is a color repeating itself, if there is any, juxtaposition, like contrasting colors, you can use it also to help your interpretation, or to kind of like, jar yourself going, oh, red and purple, for example, I don't know, that doesn't fit with this, or this is like such a different feel to these two cards, right? Because this feels like, I don't know, lightning bolt, and this one feels much more subdued. So that could be helpful very much to interpret the cards. And with the minors, because they pipish, not everybody likes pips, fair enough, right? They're not traditionally Marseille, as we can see, arrangements. How did you, what was your kind of inspiration for putting the elements of the suits as you did, like making the shapes as you made them?
Very Thothi. So on that Five of Coins, for example, there is this big shape that's kind of pushing its way into the coins, so causing instability. It's kind of an aggressive shape that is, going against these coins. So I didn't want to draw any people in the deck. There's not a single figure in the deck, but how can you kind of abstractly represent some of those ideas or kind of the energy or emotion behind the card in a more abstract way?
Yeah, it feels like, I can't hold this anymore, right? Like,
yes, totally.
I just had I don't know, rape came to mind, like type of, the legs, and and then you can say something about 10 of coins as well.
Yeah, 10 of coins for me is very much like you have this thing established and built. It's almost a castle on the bottom with the bottom 6 coins and the 2 pillars on top, and then sharing that to the next generation or to your next project or whatever it might be. So you have this very firm established thing that isn't going anywhere, but then you have that bright green new growth that's kind of ejecting out. And then you have the darker green, that like old established thing that you're passing along to somebody else. So taking these very abstract symbols and kind of interpreting them as a little story, almost like little pieces on a game board that are moving around.
Yeah, there's a comment that people, I love that there are no people in the deck.
That's actually not 100% true. The hanging card, Hanged Man.
There is one person.
It's like this little teeny tiny silhouette of a person hanging in the middle of an ocean, but that's it.
Ain't counting. So let's see, for people who are in the chat, shall we do like a little reading? Shall we do 3 cards? And
I love it.
We are going to have you, the creator, maybe show us how you would connect, because I think that's always the most important things for people to like bring the connection of the cards together. You can go, oh, this means this, and this, I feel like this, but like all together, it just loses. And maybe you can do it from the perspective of the story, because you know the story.
Absolutely.
Obviously. I think it would be interesting. So I'm going to pull it for all of us, guys. And should we ask a question, or should we just go open reading style? What do you think?
Oh, let's do in the spirit of learning, like maybe how should we approach learning something new today?
Oh, perfect. Okay. Queen of Cups. What is this? Prince of Wands. Oh, a lot of learn from people, dudes. And 9 of Cups. Oh, look at these colors.
So it's interesting. Story-wise, so much of the story is baked into the major arcana. So there isn't a exact narrative thread to pull through, but color-wise, that queen, we have that orange, for example, right in the middle is kind of our reflection or our mirror that's showing the top and the bottom. In the prince, it's forming almost the background and the backdrop. And in the 9 of Cups, it's our main focus. It's this, splashing out, it is the cups, it's the vessels. So learning today, I would say the queen is saying, be reflective on the information that's coming in today. Like, how are you feeling about it? What kind of look at what your day is like and look at what's happening to you and kind of reflect on it. The prince is saying, let that be background noise for you. So we're very aware and conscious of what's happening to us. Let that consciousness kind of be a little more vague in the background, almost like static, so you can really allow your subconscious to kind of bubble up and give you more present, active thoughts. And then the 9 of Cups is saying, take whatever comes out of that and, kind of like hold on to it and move forward in the day. So maybe something happens to you in the morning, let it sit and simmer throughout the middle of the day. At the end of the day, look back and reflect and say, like, I'm going to take hold of whatever happened to me and move forward and, pour that water out into something new.
Cool. I just seeing like, how the cups increase. So this week, if I didn't know, if I look like from the back now, it could be easily Ace of Cups as well. So I can see how it's like, you hear something interesting, you're inspired by it, make more of it, like go fucking research, do more of it. Like
totally.
Go and learn, go and study, go and like check what Tree of Life is, based on or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's kind of being, also could be me, you, and everybody in the chat. Like we can learn from one another because so many like chord cuts as well.
I love it.
That's cool. Anybody has ideas? How would you guys interpret these 3 cards? This Khalid says something means tarot cards and astrology and energy know what will happen in the future. The unseen only known by God alone. Good luck. Of course, the unseen is only known by God alone. Sure, agree with this. So, what else do we want to? Is there anything else in your slideshow that you think it's worth sharing that you haven't shared yet?
Let me take a quick peek here.
And maybe I would love you to summarize that story for us, like one more time, because I think I'm still kind of going like, so what's the fucking story?
Absolutely.
So maybe we can do that. Either you can do it, just like say it, and or if you have it on the screen, you can go with the majors or just tell us the story. Like, so we have the line, universally, it doesn't even have to be necessary.
Yeah, blow by blow. I think that's a perfectly valid critique of like, it's a new thing and
because then it's easier for people also to go, okay, it's about learning, but and sometimes when you use just the metaphor per se, like people can't make connections necessarily, but if you can just explain the metaphor a little bit for us.
Absolutely. So this journey takes us from the beginning, which is us waking up on the desert floor in this kind of ruined city, to the sound of something shattering. And that, in kind of the metaphorical sense, is our lower self or our physical bodies, how we're experiencing life, and that instant visceral sensation of like heat and dry and, consciousness with the sun. And then slowly, for the first few cards, you're exploring that area. You're kind of, taking stock of what's around you. But eventually you have to journey out because you're running out of resources. You have to survive. You have to get somewhere. Just like, as we exist in life, you'll have to learn new skills. You'll have to just move on at some point. Like there's somewhere else always to go to. The Fool card is our first kind of crux, where we see the world is kind of the ocean. The Fool is a mirage that is taking the desert and turning it into waves. So it's that being kind of lost at sea feeling, the idea of stepping into a new area of research or a new area of study and just being like, oh my gosh, there's so much. And not even realizing that you're looking at reality in some ways. You're looking at what you might be at the end of the day, but just sort of feeling more lost in it. Then we sort of transition into the desert itself, where we're wandering and encounter cards like the Magician, where we're kind of fending for ourselves and we're finding some things in the desert. Our higher self is trying to talk to us, but we're just not listening. Our spiritual, enlightened side is trying to take over, but our very conscious, practical side is saying, nope, I've got this. Like the concept that comes to mind is like, there's no expert like a novice. When you first start learning something, you think you know everything,
Yeah, I've done a course. I'm a specialist now. I'm going to be teaching people. Yeah.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
I've, read tarot for 3 days. I'm going to start charging for it. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's so true. The more you learn, right, the more you go, oh my God, this is so deep.
Mm-hmm.
I know shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Then it kind of goes into this like heat stroke element where you reach cards like the Hermit or Judgment or Justice, where the overwhelmingness of what you're learning kind of takes you, and you're having these like fever dreams in the desert of like, oh my gosh, what's real, what's not. You forget kind of where you started and where you're going. You get lost in that middle ground of like, do I know things? Is this something that I thought of, or is this, established knowledge? And then finally, you break through at the end and you understand the topic that you're, researching or learning about. You're fully established, and you can kind of look back on your whole journey and see like, okay, I see myself meandering through the desert, and you're able to like in your head draw the straight line of like point A to point B of like, this is how this journey would have been so easy to start. And at the very, very end, the moon card, you're ascending above the ocean, you have all this knowledge, and you have this shell that you've been traveling with, and you drop it on your lower self, metaphorically inspiring you to start the learning journey over again. We're always new at something. There's always something new to learn, and the whole process repeats itself.
Beautiful. Thank you. When you pull the cards, we're going to like wrap it up, I think, slowly. But when you pull the cards and you have a major arcana, do you kind of you notice that you always use the positioning of the story, like how it's a map, right? So in tarot, like when you pull magician, you hear, when you pull like the world, you might be completing things, right? So you're not at the very beginning of things, or at least it asks you to look at things holistically and from maybe more than one angle. So in this, you also notice that you actually draw from the story itself when you pull a major to go, okay, so it's before the crack of the dawn, or I'm in the cave, and yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, and it still feels kind of tarot-y, but let's say you drew the tower, for example, that's the mast of the ship underwater with all the seaweed. You can read it as the tower, but also, the angle of like, how is what you're looking at not what you're perceiving it to be, or like specifically taking that more kind of like intellectual bent on the tower. So taking the normal meanings and just twisting them a little bit into kind of a learning or knowledge space.
I like it because it makes it also more open and kind of like gives you a little bit more free reign and responsibility, rather than taking it on as a, I don't know, prediction or this is your day now. It's like, well, how can you be open towards it? How can you actually make it happen?
Yes, absolutely.
Or not make it happen. It's up to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there are any questions, I would love to hear them now. But if not, we are going to slowly close, I think, unless, is there anything else, Colin, that you would like to say about it? Or did we not mention something that's important, you think, related to the deck?
No, I think that was most of the beats. Thank you for letting me kind of ramble my way through that one. It feels like so many different elements that I wanted to talk about all at once.
Yeah, I know. And we kind of came really like, we just flow with we flew with this with the time. We didn't really prepare anything, but I think it was very informative, and at least like, from 1 cup to 9, like whoever is interested and whoever wants to research more, the guidebook is very like explanatory, and it's like a meaty, juicy guidebook when you have a lot of inspiration from reading it. And also, I think just playing with the cards, because I noticed, like I did use it much more when I got it. And then, of course, million new decks comes in and you like, yes, next and next and next. But it was a very fascinating journey when I was using it in 2019 after I read the book, which was really kind of gave me a good insight into the deck back then. And I think for people, I would suggest to read the guidebook, even if you don't want to use the guidebook, just to kind of see if you want to use it or not.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a great deck for reading intuitively, I think. To me, at least, it works really well. But yeah, I love color and I love pip decks. So even the majors, if I don't respond to the story with them, I can just like make up a story based on the image. You know.
Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
If anybody is intimidated by the new majors or the story, if you want to watch just one video, I have one that's the story of the majors. It's like 30 minutes. It's just me narrating the story to music. And that's like, I think that's the easiest entry point into the Oceandry Tarot.
Cool. I'm going to link your channel below, and I'm going to link the link to Game Crafter because somebody asked in the chat. So the link will be in the description box, and you can find Colin also on Instagram and on YouTube. So I'm going to link his information. The Oceandry Tarot is available on Game Crafter. So if somebody feels adventurous and wants to check out and like, you know, just play with something different and step out of the comfort zones, this is a great deck to do it. Also for color lovers and symmetry lovers.
Yes.
You can, guys, also, I think you're going to enjoy it. I don't know. I just like, I love it. It feels like a little lollipop-ish kind of pop of color everywhere, you know, whenever I use it. So I don't think we have any questions. People just say it's been lovely, and thank you so much, Colin, for being my guest. Don't go yet. I'm going to stop the live streaming and we can say proper goodbyes behind the scenes. And thank you so everyone who stayed in and watched with us and listened to us. Yeah, we see you next time, guys, when I invite somebody else. And who knows, maybe Colin will come back again. Just let us know what you think, who's got this deck, who doesn't, what do you think? Do you like it? You can say you don't like it, we'll be fine. We just we just want some constructive criticism if possible, or amazing praise for this deck. So, and conversation would be lovely. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. See you, Colin, and I speak to you guys next